Hi guys, good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Wednesday evening. Go, just wait for. Hi everyone. Okay, there we go. Hi guys, it's Wednesday evening. It's Fertility Talk live. Tonight we are talking to Cheyenne, and Cheyenne, I think it is, or Cheyenne. She is from Wijnland Fertility. And I'm just gonna accept her. So thank you for everyone who's joined. I just want to put my phone on silent. There we go, it's on silent. There we go. Hi there.
Hi there, Leanne. How are you?
Fine yourself.
I'm doing well. Can you see me?
I can see you perfectly. Thanks. I'm just so worried I'm going to get your pronunciation of your name wrong. I hate doing that. I hate mine being pronounced wrong. So it's Cheyenne.
Yes, Cheyenne. That's perfect.
Again. Okay, perfect. So tonight we're talking. So before we go into exactly what we're talking about, first of all, thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And I'd really like you to just tell the listeners where you're from, what it is that you do, tell them more about you and the fertility clinic that you are representing this evening.
Okay, thank you. Leanne, once again, thank you for having me tonight. And to all the patients listening in, hello to everyone. So my name is Cheyenne. I'm one of the embryologists at Wijnland Fertility. We are a fertility clinic that is based in Stellenbosch, patient-centered, which is very, very important to us. We are also one of the very few clinics in the country that have the time-lapse incubator, which is more for IVF cycles, but tonight we'll be
Yeah.
talking about IUIs. I'm also head of the donor banks, so egg and donor bank, egg and sperm bank. And I also have a bit of background in genetics and psychology and physiology. But that's enough about me. Let's get into the topic tonight.
Yeah, so the topic tonight, so sorry guys, if I just in case I cough or anything like that, um, I just recovering from a flu. So please excuse me for that. The topic tonight is how many sperm is needed do you need for an IUI? And the first question is, what is an IUI?
All right. So I think most patients know IUI, or also known as an AI. So an IUI is an intrauterine insemination. An AI is just artificial insemination. So it basically means the same thing,
Yeah.
same treatment plan. So how or what this treatment would entail is that the female patient her cycle would be tracked, usually with a mild stimulation. They would have some sonars as well as some blood tests in order for the fertility specialist to determine when they are ovulating, to actually find the optimal time to do an insemination. We, of course, prep the sperm. So the sperm gets washed in the laboratory, and then the insemination gets done usually by a gynae or a fertility specialist. What this does is it actually brings the sperm and the egg into closer proximity around the time of ovulation, hopefully to then increase the chances of conception.
Okay. Who should consider IUI?
So once again, this is very patient specific and case dependent. So we always treat patients as a couple. So we don't only look at the sperm test, you do have to look at the other partner as well. And a lot of other patients could actually be good candidates for IUIs, such as single women. Usually we would say below the age of 38. They also need to have at least one normal functioning fallopian tube in order to actually be a candidate for an IUI. A lot of same-sex female couples as well as young heterosexual couples that have been struggling to conceive at home.
Okay, so it's not you always think that, you know, when you go to fertility specialists, the first thing they're going to do is the you know the medication, the Clomid. The second thing you'll do is IUI, and then lastly you'll do IVF. It all depends on the patient itself. Is that right?
100%, yeah, yes. Especially the medical background and the time to pregnancy. So if patients who are really young have been trying at home for a really long time, you would actually consider not even doing a home plan, maybe going straight to an IUI. But of course, this is something that the fertility specialist decides. And as
Yeah.
I said, we need to look at the female and the male side, and a lot of the medical background is going to play a big role.
Okay. How long before an IUI should males abstain from intercourse and
Hmm.
storing up sperm?
Yeah. So this is a very interesting question, and we get this even when we do sperm tests.
Yeah.
So usually we advise patients to have an abstinence of 2 to 3 days. This will give us an optimal sample with a good count and a high motility. There is a bit of a misconception going around patients where they think the longer you abstain, the better the sperm is going to be, which is
Yeah.
actually not true. That is an absolute myth. The longer the abstinence is, actually, the more dead or immotile sperm you will see in the sample, and the actual DNA quality of that sperm can be lower. So longer is not always better.
Okay. So what would be the optimal time frame?
So we would say 2 to 3 days. So usually we also guide patients. So if we know that we're doing the IUI, you know, on a certain date or at a certain time, we remind the patient, you know, to make sure that the abstinence is correct.
Okay. How many IUIs should each patient try before moving on to IVF?
Yeah, so this is also a case-dependent question, I would say, but usually clinics do round about 3 to 4 IUIs before considering either moving on to IVF or even reconsidering, reevaluating the treatment plan. So this will depend on the patient's age, the prognosis, the sperm count, or the semen analysis. It's really difficult to determine why IUIs are actually unsuccessful. And the reason for that is because there are so many factors that actually play a role within the body that we can't see. So
Yeah.
firstly, you need to ovulate. So the egg has to be released. Then the tube, or at least one of the tubes, has to catch that that egg, and the sperm has to actually travel up the fallopian tube to reach the egg in order for fertilization to take place. And once fertilization has taken place, that embryo has to move down the fallopian tube into the uterus, and then implantation needs to take place. So if you think of all those steps, there are so many obstacles that could actually, you know, be an issue at all of those steps. So it's really difficult to say why a lot of patients where everything looks fine, but they're not falling pregnant. So if you don't have a positive outcome after 3 to 4 IUIs, probably reevaluate the status of the tubal factor, because if your
Yeah.
tubes don't work, sperm and the egg can't reach each other.
Yeah.
So that's really important. But as I said, you know, after about 4 IUIs, if everything is normal, the tubes are fine, maybe one should consider moving to IVF.
Okay. What is the success rate of IUI?
So this is, once again, it is clinic dependent. At
Yeah.
Wijnland, we have seen the success rate vary around about 10 to 15% per cycle. Of course, donor sperm IUIs do have a little bit of a higher success rate, around about between 25 sometimes up to 25%. But per cycle, on average, you're looking at about 10 to 15%.
Okay, great. Does it it's not part of the questions that I have, but does your success rate do you have a better chance like every time you do an IVF cycle, sorry, an IUI cycle, does it increase? Your chances of success increase with each cycle?
No, not necessarily. So this is the success rate of an IUI stays the same per cycle. You know, some patients are really lucky and they fall pregnant on the first IUI, where others take a little bit longer and only fall pregnant at the third or the fourth. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. How long does washed sperm live?
So this is another question that I think is important for patients to know, even for patients that are trying to conceive at home. And that is, how long can sperm actually survive within the female reproductive system? So a washed sperm sample can live probably 48 to 72 hours. It could actually be longer. And always remember that eggs are also viable for at least 48 hours after ovulation. So the average survival time of sperm is about 48 to 72 hours. I think sometimes patients can be quite worried and they think, oh goodness, you know, if we don't have intercourse at this time, we're going to miss the opportunity or the window of opportunity for fertilization. But they do forget that the sperm and the egg, there is a bit of a leniency and a window period where the sperm are actually, it takes some time to move up into the fallopian tube, and they actually live for quite a while.
Okay, great. How soon after IUI can you take a pregnancy test?
So usually clinics say around about approximately 12 days after the procedure was done. So some clinics do it at 10 days, others do it at 14 days. This just is to allow sufficient time for fertilization to take place, for that embryo to move down and implant into the uterus. I think patients sometimes go home and they do a home test 3 or 4 days after the IUI, and then it's not positive, but they need to remember these things take time. So we do only do the pregnancy test about 12 days after the actual procedure. And if that first beta HCG is positive, the clinic will request that the patient repeats that test 2 days later. And then we'd like to see that blood, the blood test value actually double. Then you know you've got a good implantation that has taken place.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry. How much does an IUI cost at Wijnland?
So at Wijnland, you are looking about at a ballpark figure between 8,000 and 10,000 Rand per cycle. It is all inclusive, so that would include your medication, the laboratory fee to prep the sperm, as well as doctor's fees to do all of the sonars, so to track the cycle, as well as the actual insemination. The only cost that will not be included will be your pathcare blood tests, basically. Of course, it varies from clinic to clinic, and one must always remember, if you are doing a donor sperm IUI, it is slightly more expensive because you do need to still purchase your donor sperm straws. And depending on what type of donor you use, it's going to depend on what the cost is going to be and where you purchase your sperm.
Okay. Why would my doctor advise against IUI if I'm older than 40?
Okay, so once again, I think most patients are probably aware of this. At the age of 35, our egg quality and our number of eggs actually start to decline. So after the age of 38, it's also the quality and number of eggs decline quite rapidly. So if you are 40 and you do want to do an IUI, it could prolong the time to pregnancy quite a lot. You must always remember it might take longer because you have lower quality of eggs. So each month doesn't mean you're going to produce a normal egg. And as
Yeah.
time goes by and as you get older, the number of eggs also decline and actually your egg pool becomes smaller. So at the age of 40, I would probably, advise patients to rather start looking at IVF for numerous reasons. And your main reason is the older you are, the poorer your quality of eggs get, and your actual egg pool becomes smaller and smaller. So if you only have a 10 to 15% chance at falling pregnant with an IUI, that at that age you are narrowing your opportunity of conceiving. Where IVF, we work with a lot of more eggs because we stimulate the patients a little bit harder, and the success rate of IVF is just higher specifically in patients that are older.
Yeah. Okay. What is the minimum number of sperm needed on IUI?
So this is also quite a difficult question to answer because it is case dependent once again. As I said at the start of my talk that, it's so important to remember that we don't only look at the sperm sample. We always treat patients as a couple. So it's very important, and this is just in the case of a heterosexual couple. When we're talking about single moms, or we're talking about same-sex couples, we also look at the female background, and then it's a different story because then donor sperm will probably be involved. So when I refer to the number of sperm, I refer to basically the number of motile sperm after the semen has been washed or prepped in the laboratory. So the final sample that gets inseminated, we would like that to be between 5 and 10 million motile sperm. Okay. But yeah, as we know, count is important, but there is quite a few other semen parameters that we also need to consider, such as morphology, motility, the way the sperm swims. We look at quite a few factors and not only the count. But once again, patients are treated as a couple, and you could have an absolutely normal sperm sample, but if you have a tubal factor, IUI would not be an option.
Yeah. So again, how many sperm is needed for IUI?
So we're looking at 5 to 10 million motile sperm, and that is after the laboratory has actually prepped the sperm. So usually when you do a semen analysis, the embryologist and the fertility specialists will have a look at that result, and based on that result, they will make a recommendation of whether that sperm is actually good enough to use for an IUI, or if they would rather recommend doing IVF.
Okay, we had a question here from someone in the audience asking, what is the cost of, let me just get to it, what is the price range of donor sperm?
Okay, so once again, it does differ. At Wijnland, you're looking at about between 2,000, 2,300 Rand per straw. When we do IUIs, we usually advise to use 2 straws. So then you'd be looking at about 6,000 Rand, including your courier fee. So if you aren't having treatment with us and we still need to ship the sperm for you, there is a shipment fee and a little bit of an admin fee.
Okay, and I don't think that is actually high at all, because I really thought it would be a lot more than that for donor sperm. Another question is, if someone is looking at, it's a question we get a lot, is where would you go to have your sperm, to do a sperm analysis?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I'm so glad they actually asked that. I would definitely advise that patients go to a fertility clinic specifically. You can do a semen analysis at a pathcare or an AMPATH. You are more than welcome to, but it's always better to do it at a fertility clinic. where we are actually, the embryologists are, you know, they do this every day of their lives, and we train to
Yeah.
look at sperm. So I would advise that you would get a very accurate result when you do it at a fertility clinic, and you can go to any fertility clinic close to you. Yeah, so they're very welcome to contact us for a semen analysis anytime.
Okay. I've got a last question. If there isn't any other questions from anyone, I'm just trying to double check. If someone is about to do IUI, or they're planning on doing IUI in the future, do you have any tips or any advice to give them? Maybe there's something that the husband can, or the partner can start eating, or some vitamin that you can start taking to basically assist.
So from a female perspective, you know, we usually say folic acid is sufficient. So to just take your folic acid supplement. From the male side, lifestyle plays a role as well. So, you know, eat healthy. Smoking is a huge, huge one. So I know to all the men out there, they're not going to like my comment on that. But yes, we do know that smoking plays a big role. So definitely cut down on smoking. If you can stop completely, that'll be great. I always tell patients we can have a look at the sperm, and macroscopically the sperm sample looks fantastic. But on a DNA level, the smoking actually influences the quality of that sperm, and that plays a huge role when it comes to fertilization. So otherwise, what they also can do is if the men want to take a supplement, there are supplements available. They don't need a script for it. We usually advise drinking Sperm I Prove. There are other brands on the market, but usually we advise to take that one tablet a day, and it's basically just an antioxidant and a little bit of a supplement to support sperm production.
Okay, and you guys can purchase that supplement on the Fertility Products website. Just to let you know, we've got a few questions in here.
Problem.
Okay, Annette, I think we've answered that one now. Masejo, before we carry on with that, she's asking, please explain IVF procedure using donor embryo and partner sperm.
Okay, so I think what she's referring to, I hope I understand the question correctly. She says donor embryo while using her partner's sperm, so I'm assuming she's referring to donor eggs. So how that would work is, you know, you would apply for donor eggs. If the female, the medical background, you know, is applicable to that. So we don't just dish out donor eggs to anyone. So you need to actually apply for it. What we then can do is, as soon as, there are two options. So you can either use fresh donor eggs or frozen donor eggs. And either way, the outcome would probably be very similar. So your partner's sperm will then be used for the fertilization. The embryos will actually be incubated up until day 5, and then a transfer can be done into the recipient. So you still have your partner's genetic, you know, his gametes will be there. And what's quite nice is that you have the opportunity of finding an egg donor that is similar to you and that you actually feel comfortable with. And you still get that opportunity if you have a uterus that is, you know, medically looks fine, there's no growths, and the lining is good enough. You can actually carry your pregnancy yourself. And that bonding with that baby, I think, you know, from our psychology department, it's really important to actually experience being pregnant and bonding with that child.
Okay, awesome. Then another one is, where are you based and how can I make an appointment?
Okay, so we are based in Stellenbosch. And you can make an appointment just by contacting us either at info@Wijnland Fertility or admin@wijnlandfertility.co.za. They're also very welcome to just give us a ring telephonically on 021 882-9666, and we are available throughout the week from Mondays to Fridays for appointments, and they can just make a booking with us. We will send through all the information that they need prior to via email so that they can actually prepare for their sperm test, and they can be self-referred. So if you just want to come in for a checkup to see, am I fertile? You are very, very more than welcome, and we have a little interview with you, and we answer all of your questions to the best of our abilities.
That's awesome. One last question is, does Wijnland work with medical aids?
Yes. So as I think a lot of patients would know, Discovery does cover some IVF cycles.
Yeah.
They are most medical aids are a little bit difficult when it comes to the sperm test. So usually patients do have to pay cash for that. We also have now partnered with a new financial institution that actually allow patients to take out a loan with them and actually assist financially for patients to be able to cover your treatment, and then they're kind of like a middleman. So I think we've got the details of that as well. We can definitely share that with patients.
That's also on my website, so you guys can find all of that as well on the site. So if you guys are looking for that, I think it's exactly the same people. It is on our website, and you guys can contact them and basically take out a loan that is specifically for if you want to do any IVF or IUI as well, and they work with the doctors directly.
I think it's called Medifin, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. Medifin, correct, yes. Annette's asking, if you don't mind if we ask the last question.
No problem.
Okay. Can morphology of sperm be improved?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked that question. So morphology refers to, for those who don't know, morphology refers to the shape of the sperm. That is a percentage that we usually get when we do a semen analysis. Ideally, for that to be normal, we would like it to be around 4%. So we do see patients that do have a lower morphology, 1, 2, or 3%. And there are some ways that you can try and improve morphology. So usually that would be by lifestyle changes, taking some antioxidants. So any, as I said, sperm improve or any other supplement, stopping smoking, losing a bit of weight. But at the end of the day, morphology is genetically based as well. So if you do everything you can with your lifestyle changes and you exercise and you're taking your antioxidants or your supplements and you still do not see a change in morphology, unfortunately, that is usually a genetic thing. Yeah.
Okay, we've got a comment here from Marquinette. I love seeing these type of comments. And she's saying, we conceived our little girl through IUI at Wijnland. Amazing clinic. Thank you very much for that. I absolutely love seeing it. Comments like that. Here we go. Awesome. Okay, I think that is all for now. Again, if you don't mind just mentioning your details again of how they can contact you, how can get hold of anyone at Wijnland.
No problem. So if anyone would like to get a hold of us, we've got 2 email addresses that are really easy. info@wijnlandfertility.co.za as well as admin@wijnlandfertility.co.za. They can contact us telephonically on 021-882-9666. And then our website is really nice. So if they want to go onto the website and put us a message via there or send us an email, we also have a Wijnland app that can be downloaded as soon as you become one of our patients, which is really very nice to use, actually, I think, in today's day and age. So Leanne, thank you so much for having me, and it was lovely speaking to you.
Thank you very much, Cheyenne. It was lovely speaking to you and very informative. And thank you very much, Christelle, and everyone else. Christelle is saying thank you. everyone else who joined us this evening. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, you can contact Wijnland directly, and they'll be more than happy to assist you. But thank you for joining us this evening on Fertility Talk. Have a great evening, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks.
and good.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.